This year, I think would be difficult.
It may seem like a stupid question, but I will ask you anyway.
So now it will be 500. Oh, that's tough. Kusama always has the first trial and implementations when there are new changes. With the Coretime, it's just that it will not be 2 years anymore. It will be, I don't know, every month. So Polkadot is already a supercomputer that provides secure interoperability, hiding with your head under the pillow.
Hello and welcome to Cryptos Chain. My name is Claudio and joining me today is Filippo, who's a technical educator at the Web3 Foundation. He's joining because he's going to share some more information about the Web3 Foundation, what he's doing there, what are some of the plans maybe with Web3 Foundation, and he's going to talk a bit about his awesome tutorials as well, which he's been doing for Polkadot, which I'm really curious to learn more about, and hopefully find out if they have been educating you as well, because I'm sure if you've been watching any of the Polkadot videos on YouTube, a lot of them are mostly not, really technical, let's say, to not use other words. Filippo has been doing a great job when it comes to the tutorials. So Filippo, thank you very much for taking the time to join. I know I've briefly introduced you, but if you want to just maybe talk about your journey, how did you get started in the Web3 and in crypto?
Thank you, Claudio. I'm very glad to participate to this video call. So yeah, I joined the foundation 1 year ago, and my role since then has been mostly on the wiki pages. So we're organizing the wiki, creating new articles, working with reviewers about new implementations, new technical implementation on Polkadot, like synchronous backing, and also creating the video, as you said. And I also participating to events, giving talks, workshops, and I'm learning about programming in Rust. I have a PhD in statistics. I like to analyze data. So you might have noticed on Twitter, recently, I started to publish some Polkadot staking analytics, the Polkadot staking snapshot, the biweekly snapshot. I'm also created this application called Polk Analyzer that helps nominators to choose their validators. Yeah, besides that, I'm learning also Rust and Substrate. But my main focus, I would say, is on the tutorials, on the talks, the workshops, the wiki right now.
So knowing that you do specialize in the Polkadot analytics when it comes to staking, unstaking, etc., how are you finding the current sentiment when it comes to staking overall compared to maybe a year ago with Polkadot? Are you seeing more people staking or less people staking than maybe last year?
But I would say that since nomination pool started, we have seen a lot of increase in the number of accounts in these pools. And the main problem before the pools was the entry barrier was quite high to stake on Polkadot because of this minimum active bond.
Yeah.
And basically the top 22,500 nominators are basically kept in the active set of nominators. They can actually earn the rewards. And this is a limit because then you need a certain amount of tokens in order to stay in this top list. Yeah, this bond has been increasing from 160 to now 500 dot. Yeah, so it was tough for everybody to stake, and we have seen that these pools that allow everybody to stake even with 1 dot have become very popular. The staking dashboard is the second most visited domain in the Polkadot subdomain of the Polkadot network. And no, I would say the staking is quite popular still right now. And the staking rewards haven't changed that much in this period. Polkadot is an inflationary token, right? It has 10% inflation. And inflation is important in the ecosystem because it allows to incentivize validators that are running nodes and denominators. So all the network participants. This is important. But also it goes to the treasury. So part of this inflation is directed to the treasury, and this depends on the ideal staking rate, right? That kind of changes these proportions of how much of this inflation is diverted to the treasury and how much of the inflation is diverted to the network participants.
Yes.
So it's important to stake because if you don't stake with time, you lose a little bit of value, right? If there is this constant inflation, and staking gives the opportunity to like counteract this inflation, and also it gives you more than Polkadot inflation. So usually, like right now, annual rewards after inflation, so taking into account of the inflation, is like 8%, something like this.
I want to know about the minimum bond. I know that with nomination pools, you are eliminating the issue there, so people can just stick with a nomination pool, or as little as not 1 DOT, but they need 1 DOT to keep the address alive. But maybe if they had, like, for example, 2.1 dots, they could stake 1 DOT, right? One to keep the address alive, a little bit for the transaction fees, and then stake that, right? You're given a lot of flexibility there. Whereas if you stake directly with a validator, you need a minimum of like 500 and something DOT, if I remember correctly right now, because it changes dynamically all the time. So
yeah,
do you see this continuing to grow maybe, or what could actually stop this from growing, this minimum amount?
it's very difficult to predict these things, because from one side you have the demand for staking, and also the size of the accounts that they are in the active kind of pool that they're staking, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like a cyclical pattern, like economic pattern, market cycles. I mean, again, it's just like my own opinion is that this bond will unlikely grow linearly. It will fluctuate depending on different scenarios and different factors. So now it will be 500, maybe, I don't know, it could be like 600, 700 in like 6 months from now, or it can even decrease depending on all this. It's quite a complex system.
Mm-hmm.
And the Web3 Foundation research team is actively like looking into these dynamics. I'm very fascinated by it. I have little time to look into these things, but when I have time, I try to post some updates about the staking statistics.
Now let's talk a bit about the tutorials that you've been creating for Polkadot. Which tutorial did you find the most exciting out of all the ones you created? Because you created so many of them, but there must have been one that made you like put more passion into it, and you are really happy with the end result.
I have to be honest that every tutorial is kind of interesting on its own. And I would say like I enjoy to do all the tutorials. Maybe user interfaces that are a little bit more friendly are quite a little bit more fun to do. And talking about the staking dashboard, for example, it's really like it improved a lot, and I did many tutorials in different like time frames at the start when they launched, and then after some time. I recently like published 2 months ago something about the fees, how you can add fees for the pools admins. This was quite interesting, but I enjoy all of them, and there is quite a lot of preparation before and testing the tools, making sure that I know exactly what I'm doing, and to avoid like bad surprises during recording. I usually prefer to like shoot the video in freestyle, so I don't really like to follow a script. I would like to be a little bit natural when I'm doing it, and I hope they help the community as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, tutorials do really well, especially in a bull market. Unfortunately, in the bear market, because so many people left the community, the ones that are here are ones that are already familiar with the product. So unless there's a new release of a new product, like for example, when you had that tutorial regarding the Polkadot Vault using the AirCap device, an old mobile phone.
Yeah.
Like that was something new. Everyone from the community is going to watch that, even if they're familiar with products in general within the eco, they were not familiar with that process. How do I do this thing on Polkadot.js? Because it's so complicated, and if you couldn't find, you'd usually find the information in the wiki, but if you couldn't find it, then you always had to go back to the community and ask, and maybe you wouldn't get an answer straight away. So, it was always challenging. Whereas with a YouTube video, sometimes it can really save you a lot of time. What excites you the most about the opportunity to work at Web3 Foundation, but also to contribute to Polkadot?
I would like to make the distinction that Polkadot, of course, is a protocol. It's no like legal entity.
Yeah.
In my head, Polkadot is something that it's an open source code that built with Substrate. But other than that, I'm not working for Polkadot. I'm working, to promote the ecosystem, to make people aware about how the ecosystem, how the technology works, and how to build on top of it, how to use the tools. how to understand the protocol, under the hood, how it works, the parachain kind of protocol, technical thing, synchronous backing, and in the future, agile core time, these kind of things, and try to make it understandable to the general public. That it's often very difficult to explain these complex things. I kind of work for Polkadot, but it's not really an entity.
Yeah, you're
So it's very
contributing. You're
difficult.
contributing to Polkadot
Yeah,
ultimately. Yeah.
yeah, it's very, kind of like abstract and tricky things to explain to people. But of course, I'm employed by the foundation. So my role at the foundation is to promote the Web3 vision, and of course, like a lot of attention is given to Polkadot, and therefore most of our effort is around the Polkadot ecosystem.
So we know that the parachain auction system had been very successful, especially on Kusama. Everybody was excited about a new initiative, a new way to airdrop coins, because ultimately it was kind of like an airdrop system, while also onboarding developers to help grow the ecosystem. This was on Kusama in 2021. Later on, it came to Polkadot back in December 2021. And more so around like at the beginning of 2022 when a lot of these parachains started to launch. But what I want to get your thoughts on is, do you think the parachain auction system was a good system, or do you think it could have been done better? And hence why Gavin Wood recently announced Polkadot 2.0 with Coretime and block space.
You cannot look at the past and see if we could have done this or we couldn't have done that. You don't know. Looking at the past for me is like hiding with your head under the pillow. Like
Yeah.
it's you have to face it. Like you took that decision. You used the option. It worked because it worked. It it showed that there is a demand for Polkadot cores, for Polkadot computation. And especially on Polkadot, this demand has been constant. And we are seeing that the slot, and yeah, I recently published today something that, since slot 19 until now, the average has been like 100,000 dots, more or less, for each auction. And I think that's great because it shows that there is a constant demand. But of course, that demand, it doesn't accommodate the demand for everybody, right? Because auctions are competitive, you're competing with other projects. And of course, who's bidding more will likely win. Although, like when actually the candle is blown off, then you might bid more after a certain point in time, but they take, the bid that you used maybe a little bit in the past. The system worked, but it didn't allow many people to experiment on Polkadot.
Exactly.
So the way that I see this is that it was a very successful system. It allowed to develop Polkadot 1.0, to launch the first 50 kind of projects that are now connected to 50 cores on Polkadot. This is great, but then when you're developing something, you realize something more, and how you can improve it, and what you're building, what actually is, because Polkadot has been generalized and abstracted more than what initially proposed in the white paper. And this whole narrative now of the course, and making the course more agile, and making possible for different applications to access multiple cores at the same time in the near future, it will really allow to provide this computation in a more agile way. And the auctions are not built for that. So the idea here is that you create sort of a marketplace that is very agile, and the tokens are not locked anymore in this slot option, but you actually you have to buy this core time, and the network actually makes a revenue from that. And this is very important. I think this is really something that is probably very key in the whole new system, in this new agile core time, that tokens are not locked anymore and sitting there. You basically have to, buy this core time from a broker chain, and then something will be done with these revenues, right? It will go to the treasury, it will be burned, whatever it is. We don't know right now exactly how to handle this. But the good thing is that the network will make a revenue out of it. And this is also another interesting aspect that will likely, change also the economy, of the ecosystem, because what we do with this revenue will also be very important. I think it's just usual this transition, from slot
Yeah.
auction to Coretime marketplace, from one parachain to one core to one parachain to maybe multiple cores or one course used by many parachains. This is kind of like a normal like evolution of the project. And the fact that Polkadot is so abstract and generalized, it allows this.
Yeah, there are already teams right now, at least one of them, Synchronous Phil, known on X, is building a marketplace for Coretime. So you'll be able to purchase
I see that.
Coretime. Like, what do you think about that? Like, do you think we're going to see a lot of these marketplaces offering a platform for these trades to happen, where people are actually trading Coretime, not only between users, because maybe a user may not need it, but an actual developer that needs it, in order to launch maybe a DApp or something. And I'm actually curious if they're going to do this, like how will it work with the L2s? Because at the moment with the parachain auctions, you become a parachain for you secure the slot for 2 years, and then anybody building on top of that L1, which is the parachain, becomes an L2. Will that still be possible in the future with Coretime? If somebody comes in, develops something, can you still have another product developed on top of that product, if you know what I mean, as a layer 2? Or is that preventing that from happening?
I don't think that it will change at that higher level. What Core Times is just basically the current system more agile, and
Okay.
how it is procured. You have to think that Polkadot has already like cores. The core thing is just a narrative that allows us to visualize better what Polkadot really is. So Polkadot is already a supercomputer that provides secure interoperability, and shared security to all the projects that attach to this course. And now there is one core, one parachain. So what Coretime really does is that, parachain are already buying time on course right now with the slot, with the slot auction. And this is just a 2-year Coretime lease. And the tokens are like kept, they are like locked basically. With the Coretime, it's just that it will not be 2 years anymore. It will be, I don't know, every month, and you have to renew it every month, and it will be more agile in a sense that you can buy the Coretime for a month, or maybe you can buy it whenever really you need it on that specific time before 2 days with a more instantaneous market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the way how this core are accessed, that changes.
So I need to ask you, does this mean that a parachain team will need, well, there'll be a parathread, there'll still be a parathread, right? Before they buy Coretime. So they need to build everything, they need to build the infrastructure to be a parathread, and then they need to have the NFT. Is this correct? Do they actually need an NFT to be able to onboard and become a parachain, or does that NFT come later?
I suspect that they will access, the chain on demand, and they will need to buy this bulk Coretime for maybe 4 weeks, and you test if it works. If you need more, then you buy more. If you need less, maybe you can access another core with one core with another parachain, and you can you use the core, I use the core, and so on. But it's still
early.
Not. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not clearly defined yet. We just have like a high level overview of how it's going to work, but the details are not going to come till later. So now I need to ask you, are we going to expect Coretime to come to Kusama first?
If it's the usual procedure, yes. I mean, Kusama always has the first trial and implementations when there are new changes, especially such a deep change to the protocol. And it will stay maybe for 5-6 months, and it will be accessed. It will be corrected if there are needs to parameter to be changed and stuff like that. And then when it's stable and works, it will be deployed on Polkadot, like for OpenGolf. I would expect a similar thing.
So I know it's a tricky one because we're talking about timelines, but do you realistically expect Coretime to come to Kusama this year?
This year, I think would be difficult. I would expect asynchronous backing to be pushed.
Okay.
But I think agile Coretime, all the marketplace, everything, that it will probably be later on. But definitely, I mean, this year it's already October. It's like 2 months. It's already like December. I wouldn't expect, come to Kusama so fast. Maybe.
It may seem like a stupid question, but I will ask you anyway. Do you think Polkadot is too complex even for developers? And I'm talking about the whole infrastructure here, building on Polkadot.
I would say that I'm not defining myself as a developer on Polkadot, so I'm probably not the best person to answer this question. I've been like talking to people, and I think at the start it was quite tricky. I mean, Rust is also a steep learning curve, and then you have to learn Substrate. This is already like, that's why there is the academy in order to like speed up the whole thing and to create these developers that can build on Polkadot. But I think there are like tools that you can use that allows you to speed up right now how you can deploy a parachain. I recently saw on X that a project was able to deploy a parachain in like 3 hours, which is kind of like kind of fast with all this like this infrastructure that is given by the Tansy network that I heard that is helping a lot to like speed up the whole process. And I think in the future will also be more and more easy to develop on top of it. It's just, like it's also a lot of people are building on Ethereum, and it's very, when you are building on top of something, you're used to it. And when someone comes to you and says, why not trying this other thing? Because you're used to something, it's very difficult to change minds, and also the fact that when you stick to one protocol, then you're very like bound to it, especially in the blockchain space. It will need some time to see increasing the number of developers on Polkadot. But in my opinion, that it has been done a lot in order to ease the development on top of Polkadot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's a really deep response. Cool. Thank you, Filippo. I have asked you all the questions I wanted to ask you regarding Polkadot and Web3. I do have one final question before we end this, and that is, what is one thing in life that you truly desire?
One thing in life I truly desire? Oh, that's tough. I don't think about these things very much, but I would say that I really have this Web3 vision in in me, and I really believe in having this internet where you own your own data, where you interact with other people without like trusting intermediaries. And I hope in the future this will be used and on large scale, like by Web2 companies and other big players that have like a lot of users. And this, I mean, my mission at the foundation is to spread this knowledge about Web3 and why it's important. Yeah, one day I really hope that there will be, many people at the conferences and hearing about it, because it's still like very early. And my dream is that more people will know about it and will teach about it and will spread this movement.
Hopefully 5 years from now, things are going to be a lot more different than we are seeing right now, and hopefully more adoption towards Web3. So thank you very much for taking the time, Filippo. I appreciate it. And by the way, if you want to check out Filippo, I will be posting a link to his X profile. You can find that in the description of this video and also in the pinned comment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.